How do you put your work out there? How much money do you need to publish and market your work? How do you pick and choose a literary agent? If you struggle with all of these questions, then you clicked on the right video, my friend. Hi, I'm Srishti, an author and editor. This video was requested by Sneha, an aspiring writer who sent over 10 questions that I'm sure every writer asks, including you. I decided to answer these questions in this video and make your life easy. Let's get started. Question 1. How does one share their writings with other platforms or people in the business? Is it fairly detailed or brief? The answer to this question depends upon why you're sharing that specific piece to this person or who you're sharing this with. So for example, if your intention is to showcase the quality of your work, or if your intention is to grow a reader base, as in readers who will always be looking forward to your stories, then in both these cases, the easiest way and the best way is to have an author website or a blog. Having a blog nowadays is a no-brainer because you don't need any technical expertise nowadays. You just need these recent platforms that have come up like Wix, Squarespace, and all of the other platforms that make having a website super easy peasy. I'm not sponsored by them, but I have to say that my own blog is hosted by Wix and I highly recommend it. I haven't had any issues with it. So having a blog is one way and the best way to showcase your work. Now, what if your intention is to approach a publisher or an agent with your story and your intention is to get published in one of their books or magazines? In that case, I would not suggest sending whole story to them because none of them have time to read entire stories. Trust me, they have too many people coming in. So the best way to reach out to publishers and agents would be to send them a blurb, which is usually on the back of the book. So you have a story that you want to represent. In that sense, you must write down a description which is compelling enough and which most importantly conveys the reader expectations out of that story. If the publisher is interested in your work, they will revert back and ask for details. Question 2. How does one get in touch with agents to publish their works? Through Google? Well, Google is certainly one way to do it, but if you have Googled, my friend, then you would know that Google looks like this, which is a bazillion results. Let me show you a better way, a kind of a hack to narrow down your search and to make life easy. So my way is to go by genre and category. Pick up a recently published book that falls under the same genre and same category that your book falls under. And then all you have to do is open the acknowledgement section of that book. So for example, let's take this book, Pretty Things by Janelle Brown, and I'm going to open the acknowledgement section. It's usually at the back end or it's in the front sometimes. So I've opened the acknowledgement section and what you're looking for over here is the name of the literary agent. So for this book, it's Susan Golomb. Then you go to Google and you search up Susan Golomb. Once you search up this literary agent, look at all the other titles that they have represented. Are they all similar to each other in some way or the other? Do they fall under the same genre and same category as your book falls under? Is your book similar to those books that they have represented previously? If so, then this literary agent would be a good person to pursue. Because if they're interested in all of those books similar to yours, there is a high chance that they may be interested in your book as well. Now, what if you're someone who likes to write short stories and not books? Well, in that case, all you need to do is pick up a book that is a compilation of different short stories that have already been published somewhere, and then look at where they were originally published. So for example, I have this book right here, which is The Lottery and Other Stories by Shirley Jackson. It has all the stories by this author that were previously published somewhere else. All I have to do is open maybe the front page or sometimes in the back, but they will always have a list of journals or magazines or wherever these stories were originally published. So in case your stories are similar to the stories given in this book, then you need to target those specific journals that are mentioned inside of it. I hope that is helpful. At this point of the video, if you're getting any value out of it, please give me a like and subscribe to this channel because we talk all about storytelling and publishing and writing and everything that an author needs. With that, let's move on to the next question. Does one need an editor as a beginner in publishing? Yes, there are no exceptions to this rule. And there is nothing more to explain. Every writer who wishes to have a publishable manuscript, something that is worthy enough to be loved and cherished and forever memorable, must have an editor. Every writer requires a professional editor. period. How much financial statement is one required to establish to start their publishing journey? 0. I'm not even kidding at this point. You literally do not require anything to get published. You do not require any bank balance in order to get published. What you need to do as a writer is to write a story worthy of publication and then find the right editor who is willing to put that financial statement onto your story. Now, you're probably talking about self-publishing, which I did myself, and yes, it's an amazing opportunity to get your work out there, and yes, it does require a certain amount of money. But first, I want you to know that you could be at 0 or you could be at 100 million, and in both cases, you could be published. Even in self-publishing, there is no fixed XYZ amount that you need to have in order to get started. What you need to do is to look at what you have in your bank account and then decide a certain fixed budget that you have set for your own self that you will follow during the self-publishing process and then reverse engineer from that. To know more about my self-publishing process, look at this video. Do you prefer online or physical publishing as a beginner? Well, from a reader's standpoint, I would say that people love to have physical hardcovers and paperbacks in their hands, feel them, smell them, show them off to their friends, so they're more likely to pay more money for physical copies, and authors are more likely to earn more profits on physical publishing. However, if you're just starting out as a beginner, then I would recommend going via the online route where the investment is less and also the risk of loss is also less. So in that way, I would just suggest going via the ebook route. First publish as an ebook, and if that ebook is not performing well up to your expectations, it would be better to just pause and then look at the analytics, improvise, and then only work your way up to the paperback publishing or hardcover publishing. Personally, what have you experienced about the success of your work in the market? Did it meet your expectations? Was it slow or quicker than you imagined? Well, I'm a wonderfully weird person and I have a very different idea of success in my head, which you can find out in this video right here. But I understand that you're referring to the financial success of the book in the market. And to be honest, no, it did not meet my expectations and it was very, very slow. Having said that, I must also mention that in case of my book and in my specific scenario, I was releasing this book in the middle of a global pandemic where nobody was really buying books of new authors because people were looking for comfort. So nobody was really going on Amazon to look for books that nobody has read previously. Hence, in my case, my growth being slow may be dependent on that. This is not an excuse to say that my book is amazing, which it is. But to say that please don't compare your journey to my journey because I released a book in the middle of global chaos, which I hope you won't. On a serious note over here though, please have less expectations from your first book, first story, or whatever is your debut into the industry because surprises are better than disappointments. How much approximately was your investment into getting your book published? So I spent around 90,000 rupees, equivalent to $1,200. In editing, developmental editing, multiple rounds of edits, book covers, website design, character art was expensive, and marketing. Marketing was the main thing. Alright, so I spent that much of amount, but you do not need to spend that amount. As we've talked earlier, you can be published in less than that and in more than that. This is just the budget that I set for myself and then I reverse engineered from there. How long was the writing and editing period for you? It took me 3 years to write my first novel, which is The Missing City. You can see it right here and you can buy it on Amazon. It took me 3 years to write the book because I was also doing my undergrad at that point of time and I did not have full time and full concentration just going into the book, so it took me longer. And I think it took me almost 1 year to self-edit plus professional edit. So overall 4 years to writing and editing. Any suggestions that have stuck with you in the writing journey? So if you subscribe to this channel, you'll get all the suggestions, but for the sake of this video, I'll give you one of my favorite learnings. That is, do not mix the roles of being a writer and being a business person. Being an author is actually an artist plus a business person. When you're writing your story, you're an artist. And when you're selling your book, you're a business person. And in that sense, you must not be mixing these two roles together. And if you do, you will create chaos. Not a good one. Trust me, I've experienced it. you will end up hating both the phases of being an author. So please try to keep these two roles, differentiate them, and try to keep them separate in your life, and live them when you're living them through, and do not live them before they really need to be lived. In simple words, don't try to think about selling it when you're writing it, and when you're selling it, don't think about the process of how hard you wrote it. I know the journey is hard, but I need to ask, without a degree in literature and not a lot of connections, is it possible to become a writer? Absolutely. I mean, why not? Some of the biggest writers out there do not have a degree in literature or creative writing or whatever. They have various degrees, and some don't have degrees at all. So having a degree, having a certain qualification is not a requirement to become a writer. All you need is the ability to think, imagine, observe, and never give up. Now, you may say that I'm being hypocritical because I'm pursuing a degree in creative writing myself, but I should say that I'm pursuing a degree in creative writing because I want to, not because I have to in order to be a writer. I did not have this degree when I was writing my first book or writing my first stories that won contests. I did not have a degree back then, and now if I have one, it's not a requirement or a qualification for being a writer. So do not let this inhibition stop you from becoming a writer. Even if you have one reader that is there to read your story, be it your mom or your dad or your spouse or just somebody out there you have no idea about, even then, it is worth becoming a writer if you want to. If you have more questions about writing or publishing, make sure to put them down in the comments below, and I'll be happy to answer them all for you. Again, thank you so much, Sneha, for sending in these amazing questions. I hope I've provided some valuable answers and some clarity on what you need to do next. Also, I think if you've enjoyed this video, you will also enjoy my self-publishing video where I have talked about my experience of self-publishing my debut novel. This is me, Srishti Rathore, signing off. See you in the next video. Until then, bye-bye and happy writing!